Today's episode is sponsored by the book Everything's Fine, written by Cecilia Rabez, brought to you by the Mocha Girls Read National Book Club and Simon & Schuster. Everything's Fine is a novel about Jess, a Black woman who forms an unlikely friendship with her conservative and white colleague Josh at Goldman Sachs. Their friendship turns into an electrifying romance, causing Jess to question whether happiness is worth sacrificing for love. However, the cultural and political landscape shifts in 2016, and Jess must decide what she's willing to sacrifice for love and if everything is truly fine. Everything's Fine is a poignant and sharp novel that doesn't just ask will they, but should they. Everything's Fine is available wherever you buy books. Learn more about today's sponsor by visiting mochagirlsread.com and pick up your copy of Everything's Fine today. The links are in the show notes. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Tamara, and today we are discussing the July Buddy Read thriller title. If you would like to see the video format of this podcast without commercials, you'll need to head on over to Patreon and sign up. We also have a fun after show also available on Patreon. Don't forget, you can also join me and my two co-hosts over on the Book Club's app for even more bookish chats. Please subscribe and like the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me virtually everywhere at Shelf Addiction. Joining today is feature co-host Classy from the Bookish Virtual Assistant. Welcome back, Classy.
Thanks, Tamara. How are you this evening?
Girl, I'm silly right now. We'll see how this episode goes.
Okay, I will not indulge and try to make you be more silly.
Thank you. I just can't stop chuckling for some reason. But Okay. So tell everyone where they can find you online.
You can find me on Instagram under the Bookish Virtual Assistant, and you can also find me everywhere as Classy Green.
All right. So before we get started, we would like to remind you, as always with Book Chats, that we talk full spoilers here. So spoiler alert, you have been warned. All right. So today we are discussing the book The Last Word, written by Taylor Adams. The audiobook is narrated by Carlotta Brenton and Jim Meskimen. It was published April 25th, 2023 by William Morrow and Harper Audio. The hardcover came in at 340 pages, and the unabridged audio is 9 hours and 57 minutes. Classy, would you kindly share the synopsis?
Yes. After posting a negative book review, a woman living in a remote location begins to wonder if the author is a little touchy or very, very dangerous. In this pulse-pounding novel of psychological suspense and terror from the critically acclaimed author of No Exit and Hairpin Bridge, Emma Carpenter lives in isolation with her golden retriever, Laika. She is house-sitting an old beachfront home on the Washington rainy coast. Her only human contact is with her old neighbor, Deke, and via text, the house owner, Jules. One day, she reads a poorly written but gruesome horror novel by the author H.G. Cain and posts a 1-star review that drags her into an online argument with none other than the author himself. Soon after, disturbing incidents start to occur at night. To Emma, this can't just be a coincidence. It was strange enough for the author to bicker with her online about a lousy review. Could he be stalking her too? As Emma digs into Cain's life and work, she learns he has published 16 other novels, all similarly sadistic tales of stalking and murder. But who is he? How did he find her? And what else is he capable of?
Okay, so first, before we give our high level, I must say, to me, this is a thriller. I feel like this is more of a thriller than we've gotten in the last year, the last 12 months. Like, this is like a legitimate thriller to me. And yes. I was happy for it.
Right.
So.
Right. It wasn't one where we had to guess or we tried to figure out, like, because there has been times where we had to say, I didn't think it was more, this was full blown no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
high level, when you finished the audiobook, what did you think?
I felt like Taylor redeemed himself after reading Hairpin Bridge. I was happy. I was like, he's back. Um, I enjoyed the book. I
Okay.
that's all I have to say is that I enjoyed it, the pace, everything.
Okay. So I too enjoyed it. And I think when I first closed the book, I was like, oh, that was a good ending. I did think, wow, that was a good ending. And then my next thought was that was kind of a rocky road to get there. So while I enjoyed it, I do have to admit, like the first 30%, I was struggling a little bit. I actually started taking notes, trying to figure out the different POVs
Mm-hmm.
because we listened to the audiobook, and so obviously there's a female narrator for Emma. There's a male area narrator for Howard, who is the author. And then there's this other voice that's also male, but it comes in like a narration. Like you can tell that Howard is saying stuff and doing stuff. And there's this other voice that's kind of omniscient and it's telling a story.
Right.
And I'm like, at first, it takes a while to figure out what the hell is this? And I'm like, well, who's telling the story? We do find out eventually, but it took a long time to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you had the dog.
And then the
Okay.
dog, which I love.
I
Okay, so let me
know.
just say, I watch a lot of TikTok, y'all. And they have this little voice on TikTok where they have the dogs talking and saying
Yes.
stuff to their owners.
Right.
So when the dog was saying stuff to his mom, like,
yes.
that's so cute. It's so TikTok,
was.
like on trend.
Yeah.
Taylor Adams.
Yeah. I loved it because I'm a dog mom. So I was like, oh, the dog would look at her. What, Mom?
Yeah.
But I was hungry,
Yeah.
it was, but yeah, you're right. There was a lot. And I almost felt at one time like he switched, gosh, what would I call that? And I had it at on the tip of my tongue, like the person, the writing style. And it was at one point with Emma's story where I think instead of first person, he might have switched over to third, or I can't remember exactly, but I was like, wait a minute. She was telling the story from like I, or me. And then all of a sudden it was she. And I'm like, did you hear that too? Or or maybe it was just all the different POVs and maybe it just kind of threw me off because maybe it was actually, but it was Emma's voice. It wasn't who knows, but it did. Yeah. It was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do remember, so that omniscient voice or storyteller was he, she, they, them. And I think what kind of made it more complicated on the onset is like, and this went on, you just got used to it, I think, with the pacing. You just got used to the flip-flopping because Emma would say, like, she'd finish her part with, oh, this guy is shaking, his hand's shaking with the gun. And then the very next sentence, they're like, oh, I was steady with the gun.
Yes.
And I knew this. So it's like their points of view on what was happening were polar opposite.
Yes. He was like, I would never do that. I'm
did it.
Expert.
Right.
But you know what? I also felt like that brought some color to the story, because there's always a different point of view of what you see versus what I see. And I did enjoy that part that, she see him shaking like a leaf and he's over there like, I'm confident with this gun, or
in his brain.
I know exactly what I'm going right. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I did enjoy that.
Because like the parts where when he was like outside creeping around trying to like, with the mask and the camera trying to get in the house, I'm like, and that guy was I knew early on he was in the house. She would wake up and she thought she saw something in the corner. That fool was in there, girl. cannot.
Yes.
That was the creep level was very high, and I loved it.
Yeah. Right. Because at first she was like, is that just a coat or
am I seeing something?
Yeah. No.
The
But
toilet randomly flushes.
Yes. Yes.
Someone's in there if that's happening.
Yeah. And she's like, no, just, But didn't the neighbor tell her that the house was haunted, or he had heard it was haunted? Yeah. So yeah, that it was the creep level was definitely there. The setting, that Washington rainy coastline, dark beach, because at night at the beach it's dark. Like when it's dark,
it's dark.
Because they probably in my mind as reading the book, like there's no street lights. Like in my neighborhood we have street lights, and I'm just thinking beachfront, rainy Washington, it is probably pitch black out there.
So, like, I just came from Hilton Head Island, right? Beach, you're on the island. When it freaking gets dark, it fucking gets dark. I'm like, there's not, like, you can't see shit outside. They barely have lights, and it's because of the sea turtles. They don't want to draw the sea turtles.
Yeah.
But that's what I think of in any beachfront property, because it's dark out there. There's nothing out there. So, and the houses aren't on top of each other. So there's not a lot of light.
Right. Yeah. And once there is light, it's going to immediately draw attention. So yeah, I did. And like, and you could even almost say that the setting was a character, because it played a key role in setting up, like you say, the creep factor, the suspense, the thriller feel to this book. Because I mean, it got to a point, if you think about it, she had, when she was using that Polaroid to catch him,
that was so smart. I was like, that's so smart.
Yeah, that she had to, because it was so dark and she didn't want to turn on any lights, but she also wanted to get an image of him, and she would just get close enough to that window and take a picture of him. And and she just kept doing it until she caught him. So
I could see that visually. I could see it.
Yeah. And then and then just knowing, if you're of a certain age, that it takes some time for that. It's not instant.
She's flipping it around. You know how you flip the Polaroid back and forth trying to get it to develop?
Right. And then it's dark in the house, and she's probably trying to, look at it. So it was, he really took the time to describe all of this to us readers, to set up a perfect, I won't say a perfect, but the scene, he set it up really well. So
it was kind of slasher vibes at that point when she took the picture, because when she finally sees him, can you imagine, he's like standing in the dark with like a trench coat on and a hat, and he's got something in his hand. She's trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, she had to take another picture.
And y'all, okay, so the thing that took the cake was right after she saw him. And I posted this on Discord. Did you see what I posted in Discord?
No.
Okay, y'all. On the Discord for this book discussion, I literally went on there and I said, I'm just going to leave this here because I didn't want to spoil anything. I said, I'm just going to leave this here. And if you're far enough in the book, you'll get it. And what it is a photo of Chucky. I thought it was hilarious how this author kept calling this guy like a big version of Chucky.
She said she thought she was going to get Jason Bourne or Jason somebody. It's a damn.
Yes, she thought she was going to get Jason.
Chucky doll.
She got Chucky, who is overweight, have red hair. Chucky, and he had a knife in his hand. The photo I posted.
Trench coat.
Yes.
Over his big belly.
I literally heard Chucky and just bust out laughing. I'm like, are you serious? God. I can visualize that.
Yeah. Right. And the thing is once that was in my head, I couldn't get it out.
No. And the author repeated it like 3 times. Like she called the character Emma called him Chucky like 3 times.
Yeah, you could. I mean, it's like you can't get that out of your head once it's said.
Yeah.
And the other part was like, because Chucky was scary. And I mean, this guy, the guy was kind of scary, like with the knife and different things. But then he was kind of like a bumbling idiot,
Idiot.
like the way he talked. So it was just like, he's scary because he's unpredictable, but then it's just like, but he's also like a doofball, a
Yeah.
goofball. I
So
won't say a goofball, but like something is wrong.
yeah, like he's scary when you don't know the face behind the mask. That's how they always do with the horror films. They have a really scary looking mask
Yes.
and it like amps up the fear factor. And like, when you rip the mask off, oh, you're just a regular person under there.
Right.
So it kind of like, I think, helped her think better, more normalize things a little bit more, because it was very
Yeah.
frightening before she got a look at him.
Yeah. Right. Because he wore a wolf mask? I think that's what it
Like,
was,
or
right?
was it a demon mask or something? It has something with horns sticking out. They described horns sticking out, and
I think it was a demon mask. I
yeah,
probably just got wolf with some other book I read. But yeah,
I
it was a
swear.
demon mask.
Look,
No, you
if
know what?
anyone
It was
shows
another
up,
book.
if anyone shows up on my door with a mask and it's not Halloween, I will freak the fuck out.
Yeah, I don't do well with masks at all. Like, like when Halloween would come and we would have like events at the university, I'm okay with costume. But when you put a mask on, it's something about it that I can't explain, that I just have trouble with. Like, I feel like something sinister, like there's something behind what you're doing. Because I think Halloween is fun, but when you put on that mask, it's just like, I think you're up to no good. Can
Yeah,
you
it
take
seems
that
that
off?
way.
Like, I need to
Right.
see some eyes, and not no eyes through some holes.
Yeah.
No.
Just paint your face or something.
Yeah.
Like, be scary that way. But when you add a mask, you're right. It is more sinister.
Yeah.
It's more scary. Like, what are you up to? What are you trying to hide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It just makes it creeps me. That's it. It creeps me out.
Especially if I see you on my porch, man.
Yeah.
I
Because I
would
can't
go.
I can't see facial expressions.
No.
I can't determine like what's really going on. Makeup, you could still, paint a smile and still have a, whatever. But that mask is just, yeah.
Like that Ethan Hawke movie. This is a little side note, but that Ethan Hawke movie about the kid who was kidnapped. What was that? Black Box? Was that Black Box? Yes, it was. I think it was with Ethan Hawke. No, let's see. I'm going to Google it right quick. Excuse the typing. It is Black Box. I watched that shit. Have you seen the mask that character is wearing?
No, I have not seen this movie at all.
Oh my God. It's a horror. Oh my God. It's scary, but it's in the 70s. And this guy goes around kidnapping kids and like just doing the worst. And he has this mask on that is so scary. I don't want to show it to you since you don't like masks, but it's scary.
Black Box?
Yes. Black Phone. Excuse me. Black Phone. Black Phone. Look it up. You're going to be like, the fuck? And when I saw that mask was so... right? Right?
Oh, no.
Right.
No.
He's an awful person, but the mask makes it worse. It makes it worse. He takes the mask off eventually, but oh my God. I was sitting there watching that movie like, OMG. So I feel like I was feeling those vibes in this book at the beginning, like creeped out.
Yeah. Especially, like the way, and he basically was, for the people who haven't read the book, because at first we're hearing the story from Emma's point of view. She posted the 1-star review, and then all of a sudden the author kind of basically claps back at her, as we would say, right? Like, hey, I'd appreciate if you just take that little 1-star review down, because basically that's my livelihood and I need more people to, read my book. I had an experience like that before too. Our book club did. But anywho, I digress. Yeah. And so she's like, no. She basically said, no, I'm not going to do it. your book sucks. I'm keeping
Mm-hmm.
it. All of a sudden, then he calls her. And then
Mm-hmm.
he's like shows up at her house. That's how how we get there. He shows up at her house and he's following her, and we hear the story from her point of view. And she's like, I know how this story is gonna go because I've read his book, and if he's gonna do anything like he's done in his books, so she kind of almost thought she knew one step ahead of him. Like, he's probably going to do me the same way he did. Who was it? Psych major in Law Girl or whatever
Yeah.
from the book that she just reviewed. So she kind of knew, but then there was another level that she just didn't know about, and it seems like right at that point, that's when that other person comes in, because we don't hear the other character. Who is it? H.G. Kane, who we think it's H.G. Kane's voice until what, like 40%, maybe 30 or 40% of the in the book, where we start
Yeah.
hearing him narrate the story, because for the whole time it's just her and she's running from him.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
should have
So
made note of when that change happened.
yeah, I think it was about 30%, because I think at the 40% mark, I think that's where I thought, like, and I did figure out at the 40% mark, I did know who H.G. Kane was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, probably about that 30% mark. Um,
So when you figured out who he was, you figured out that he was the
the son.
homeowner's son.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured out that he was the son. Yeah,
What
because
tipped you off?
um it was something about the familiarity that he had to the home. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it was the samurai on the wall or something, and it was like, it wasn't you know how they say coincidences are, can't remember, I should have wrote that quote down, that coincidence, when they occur in books, it's kind of like weird. You know how, because this book really makes fun of different tropes that authors use.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they said, like, in when coincidences occur in books, it's just like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. You should find
Yes.
another style.
Like it's almost like too easy and the easy way
Yeah.
out when you're using a bunch of coincidences over and over again. It just becomes like lazy writing, basically.
Yeah. But there was
Um,
something about some kind of poster that was in the bedroom in the home that Emma is house sitting. He either dressed like, or he had, like, I don't know if it was the fedora or there was something. And I was like, oh, he knows. Or you know what? Or maybe it was something. You know what? No, it wasn't. It was when Jules said there was a creepy guy walking around the house when my son was visiting.
mm-hmm.
That's when I figured it out. And then those other little pieces that I'm talking about, like the coincidence and something with the poster, I started putting two to two together. Like, oh, he knows this house too well
Mm-hmm.
because he's lived there.
Yeah, at
He
first
knows
we think
every
that maybe
nuance.
he was house sitting, but he grew up in that house.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, when she said my son was there and he saw the same, because she got the Ring camera and she's like, I'm gonna get her a stun gun, and I was like,
Yeah, because the homeowner saw the masked person on the camera and flipped out and called Emma. And she's like, she calls the police. She calls Emma. She's like, yeah, that's some crazy shit. I'm sending you a stun. She sends her the stun gun, and she's like, feels bad that she's out there because her son also felt weird.
mm-hmm.
Although she know her son crazy. That's another conversation. She know her son crazy. So like, okay, so as we were getting to know these characters, and Harold, is his name Howard. Sorry, I was calling him Harold, but Howard started like revealing his books, and it was like this whole thing of maybe he killed all the people in all these books. He wrote 16 horrible books. And is he like writing out what he's done? As it's starting to come that way, and it seems like they're flipping back and forth with extremes of how he's acting versus how Emma says he's acting, I'm like, he's schizophrenic or something. I'm like,
Yeah,
something is wrong with him. This is
yeah,
so off, like something is wrong with him. And then the mother ends up saying at one point that he does have like schizoid affective disorder, I think she said.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, see, that explains some of it, which I was glad for that explanation. Because I'm like, no, for the character, Emma started wondering, does he have like help? Is someone helping him? Is there someone else?
Right, because she thought it was more than just him.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first he's like, well, he wanted me to kill you and I
Yes.
didn't. And then she was kind of, and then that's where I think she kind of pushed it aside, thinking, okay, so maybe he's off his meds, maybe he forgot, and he just lost it. But she still kept going back to somebody else wanted me dead, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Yeah,
didn't.
that somebody else wanted me to kill you, but I chose not to. So
yeah, which was crazy because as he's going through all of this, he ends up killing a FedEx guy. He's like shaken and disturbed, and the FedEx guy's got big ones, and he's gonna try to take him out, and it ends up he gets killed.
Yeah, because even though H.G. Cain is off a little, like he has a disorder, he is an expert at swinging that samurai sword.
Yes.
And I mean, like quick and smooth with it to the point where you wouldn't even know he just sliced your ear off, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the author gave this quick little question comment like about like two people. Oh, and actually he would be yelling at you right now. Howard be yelling at you because there was this one scene where I literally wrote it down. It's not a sword, it's a katana. He'd be yelling.
Sorry, HG. Sorry.
He'd be yelling at you.
Yes.
But like in that one section, he says, about this katana and how one person tries to show his skill and he cuts the fly in half. And then another person tries to show his skill, and he's like, the other guy says, like, the fly is still alive. He's like, yeah, but he doesn't have any balls, basically.
He's not gonna have any more flies.
Yeah, he's not gonna have any more flies. So, I guess the skill level of the katana. But I also think he may know some things, but I think he also exaggerates how good he is at things, just like his god awful books.
Yeah.
He thinks he's so good.
Shaking. Even though Emma said he was shaking like a leaf over there,
right,
with that gun. I didn't shake.
Yeah, in his mind he didn't. Yeah. In his imaginary world, that's him.
He was a very socially awkward young man. Yeah. And in his youth, he fell in love with a young lady and accidentally killed her.
See, and this is what's crazy. That also adds to his delusion. He thinks that he didn't really kill her.
No.
Dude, you tied her in a way that would kill her. If she tried to move, she asphyxiate. Oh my God, I can't say the word. You know what I'm trying to say? My God.
Asphyxiated herself. It's okay.
I didn't even have any wine today. I don't know what's going on. But, she did die, but he's acting like she killed herself. I didn't do it.
She just tried to get away.
No, yeah, but dude, you're at fault for that. If she wasn't tied up,
she wouldn't be trying to get away.
Right. Yeah. And then he does it again. He does it again in present day to his own freaking mother. The woman's like, turn yourself in, sit down. And he's doing the most. And he ties her up. And he's so busy chasing after Emma, he doesn't even realize his mother is also dying from the ties that he has done.
Yeah.
So he kills his own mother.
Yeah. And all I can say is the real author of this story picked the right one to take the fall.
Yes. He was a scapegoat, really. And he just got him to do stuff because he's dumb.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he set him up from a while ago, not just with, when you think about it, I think he realized, oh, I got one of those on my hands. Because the whole time while we're listening to this story, the reader, we're thinking it's H.G. Cain who wants to kill Emma and there's someone else. But H.G. Cain does not reveal Like that was the other part, is that he was so loyal to this person that he wouldn't even reveal who it was that
No.
wanted her dead.
Even when he was with him, they were
Yes.
in the same space and he did not say anything.
Exactly. And I was like, you want to talk about fanboying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that he would not even reveal to him. And the guy, the real H.G. Kane, um, yeah, Kane, because this guy his name was Howard
So I think
Klein.
Howard is H.G. Kane. Howard wrote those books
Oh, that's
because
right.
the
Yes, that's
neighbor
right.
Deke said that Howard would come and he would fanboy and beg for him to read his books and ask to meet his editors, and his books were awful.
Right. Yes.
But Howard was revealed as also, like at the beginning, Emma was trying to figure out what Howard did for a living. He would not say. She was trying to guess all these things.
Oh, Deke.
Yeah,
she was trying to figure
Deacon.
right, because she thought he was an anesthesiologist, because propofol was like his first word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
they were playing a game. Hangman, I guess, was the game they were playing.
Yeah, he was using all the words he was using to hurt folks.
Yeah, but he was an author, and he was a true crime author. So he had a really big book, and then he suddenly dried up with the stories. So he decided, I'm gonna create my own story. I got someone right here who's totally has the capacity to be a killer.
Yep.
Because at that point, Deacon had thought, or Deke, had thought that he had done something to the high school girl, which he did. He thought he did.
Mm-hmm.
And he even took some responsibility for it. He said he thinks that he was trying to do that to impress him or something.
Yeah.
And so, he already knew he had a psycho that would do something outrageous. He just needed to push the right buttons to get him to do it.
Right. And what better way to get you a fabulous book than to live it in real time, basically, and write it out? Because he basically was writing this story that Deke was writing was happening in real time. It is unfolding before our eyes. It is unfolding as he peeks through his telescope.
Yes.
Or his binocular. It was a telescope, right? Not binocular.
Yeah, I think it was a telescope. Yeah, because then I realized, when all that started happening, I'm like, oh, so this whole time when we had these like high level narrations, it was him writing his book.
Yes.
So things would happen in the real world. He would look and spy, he set stuff up, and then he would write his book back and forth. He's looking and instigating and watching and writing on the side.
Yeah, plotting. He's basically plotting. Like, he would say stuff and do stuff, and there's like, okay, plot and roll. Action. Yes, that's how I felt. Like, after you realize what's happening, he's like, this.
Yeah, that's a long game,
man. A long game of hangman.
Yes.
So yeah, he basically, because he set her up for to be scared from the beginning, with the "who's behind you," and she's
always
like,
playing these games with her. For months, because she was up there for a couple months, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, we're past our time. We're going to take a quick break. You guys check out these commercials. By listening to those commercials, you are supporting the podcast. And don't forget to check out the book review journal, available right now over on Amazon. So pick yourself up a copy, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. All right, we're back.
Let's piggyback really quick.
Yeah.
Because who gave Emma the book?
Okay, so this is a part of the long game. So at the end, Deke explains, like, he just decides to just basically spill his guts Scooby-Doo style after they all escape the murderous night, right? Everyone dies. We find out that, hell, even he almost died, but he didn't.
Man.
Right. Emma almost killed him, but she didn't. She felt bad about that. So they come together for some tea and he just spills his guts. And he basically decides to tell her, yeah, so he wasn't actually going to kill you. He started to like you by spying on you and all this stuff. And I just needed to get him back on track. So I sent you the book. So I think he wanted him to hear her talk shit about the book. And I think it was just a coincidence that she actually wrote a review. I think he was hoping to just have them talking about it because he's in the house. He can hear her.
Yeah.
But writing this review, so it wasn't even just a bad review to him. It was more like, I like this girl and she's rejecting me. Like the girl in high school. I liked her, gave her my work, and she rejected me.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And that flipped the script real fast. He was suddenly crazy.
Mm-hmm. And whoa, did he? Yeah. But I did like, what was the analogy that he used? Like, if something was bad, was it milk that was bad? And he's like, so if you know the milk is bad and you taste it and it's bad, do you keep drinking it even though it's bad, or do you throw it out? And that analogy, he was, he's like, you finished that book. And that's what he was basically kind of telling her, so after you find out that it's bad, you keep reading the bad book instead of throwing it out or stop reading it. And
DNF it, baby.
I was like, that's a very good analogy. And,
it is.
And that is something that I really did like about Taylor in writing this book. He made fun of authors, and he's an author. He made fun of authors and the tropes they used, and he used like the classic old horror movie kind of feel with this book, because it was like every little thing that you could possibly think that would happen in an old horror movie, like I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of feel, those kind of movies. I felt that in this book, the looking at the neighbor through the telescope. There was an old Jefferson. You're probably too young for the TV show, The Jeffersons, but there was a neighbor that was, I think they were committing a crime, and they just happened to see, and they use this in other television shows. A crime was committed, and the other neighbor just happened to be looking through his telescope to look out in the stars and saw the crime being committed across the way. But yeah, he used everything possible in this book, and it was enjoyable.
It was, and also, earlier you said he redeemed himself. I think that's because while, like, at the beginning, the book took place over a couple of months at the very, very beginning, and then the course of a few days, right? And then a couple of weeks. But the vast majority, like 70% of the plot happens over the course of like one long night.
Yeah.
Which is reminiscent of No Exit. Yeah. One place, one night. That's how he did. Loose. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the same format.
And right. And that's the thing, is like, I knew she wasn't gonna die because we just know Taylor's writing. He always writes kick-ass women who come out on top, who refuse to give up. So I knew she wasn't gonna die. That I knew. But, that one night kind of thing, I was like, okay. And that brings that level of heightened fear and what's going to happen next, and the pacing. And it's all because it's, like you said, it's one night.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize, like, damn, it's not the next day yet. And just like, everything is happening. So yeah, it is that break. It's like a breakneck speed once we get to that point. But like you were saying, the first 30 or 40%, it took a little time.
He set it up.
He was setting up he was setting it up, but it did take a little time. But once it happened, it was just like,
Because I mean, I honestly finished this in a day and a half. I finished this. Yeah, I came back from vacation on Sunday, and I'm like, oh, damn, I got to read that
Sweet
book.
book.
So Monday,
Yeah.
I picked it up, and Monday was a very busy, so I couldn't listen all day because it was a busy Monday. And so I pretty much got like half a day's worth, a couple hours in, and I just
Yeah.
powered through the rest of it today. I
Yeah.
woke up and just banged it out.
Yeah. Because there wasn't any moments where I felt like, oh, this, once it did, like you said, once we got to that part, it was, it there was never a lull like, oh, this is so boring. I'll get to it.
Mhm.
It was really interesting. I will say that this book probably was more gruesome
Mm.
with some of the killings than, and I'm not saying, like a bad point, but I was just like, ooh, Taylor,
It's a little
you
intense.
stepped it up a little. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I don't remember, I know there were some tough scenes, in No Exit, but this one, he he took it up a notch.
He did. And not only did he take it up a notch with it regards to the killings, but I'm like, what is he doing to that dog? I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God.
oh,
I
girl,
said, you
don't.
better not kill that dog. You better not kill that dog. And the dog, y'all, the dog made it. The dog made it through. But by the
And I
skin of
think he
his
knew
teeth.
not to do that because
Yeah.
if you want to lose some readers,
Kill
harm
the
a
dog.
dog.
Because he poisoned the dog. He poisoned the dog. Well, first he put fish hooks in some meat that the dog would eat.
Yeah,
And Emma yanks it out his mouth. He's got bloody gums and stuff. And
yeah.
then he puts like rodent
Gopher
killer or
poison.
something,
Yeah,
gopher poisoning in like chicken that the dog would
yeah. The
eat.
pellets.
And
Yeah,
she like basically threw her hand down the dog's throat to grab it. She didn't grab all of it, but she grabbed most of it.
yeah.
But I'm like, do not kill this fucking dog. He didn't. But I'm like, oh my God.
No. And she was gonna go fight him tooth and nail for that dog too,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean it was like her baby.
Mm-hmm.
And later we find out that she had lost a child. So this dog was, her child, her, I won't say replacement, but that
Mm-hmm.
same kind of love that she had for the baby,
Yeah.
um, you have for your pet. And yeah, I was like that too. Like you better not, Taylor.
I know. I was like, oh
If
no.
a
I'm like,
dog,
do we
if
need
Leica
warnings for
is
people?
hurt,
Because I'm
I'm
like, oh
done
my
with you.
God, don't kill the dog. So the dog's name was Leica. Yeah. So Leica was a white golden retriever. Is that right? He was like a
Yes. But he was like a mix of something. I don't know. Like, right? Didn't she say it was a mix? But yeah, he was a white
yeah,
goat.
because
Because
this
she was like,
one
get your
scene,
white ass
yeah,
over here.
get your white ass over here. She kept calling she was using recall, right? She was trying to use some training thing she had learned, and
Yeah.
the dog was not coming. She's
Yeah.
like, Leica, get your white
White
ass over
ass.
here. I'm like,
I
oh
was
my
cracking
God.
up.
Oh my, the
Yes.
comedy amongst
Yeah.
all the horror.
Yeah. There was some comedy in here. And I did, and I even liked the teaching lessons, or I won't say teaching lessons, but the historical pieces. Like, Leica was the first dog that was put into space. Didn't know that. That was the name of the dog that was put into space. He kind of talks about this katana samurai. He talked about the history of that and, the warrior. So I enjoyed. I think he took his time with this one and produced a pretty damn good book.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. Very good. It
But
wasn't
like you were saying too with the
perfect,
ending,
but
it was,
good.
yeah, like you said, the ending, it was a little convoluted to get to the end. Um, but yeah.
And there was extremely quick shifting back and forth at the end. So like
Yes.
one, Emma would say something and then it would flip and it would be freaking Deke's
Deke.
book. And then it would be like, well, did she die or not? And he'd be like, she's alive. She's dead. I'm alive again. She's dead. I'm
Right,
alive again.
right.
She's
Because
dead.
in the
I'm
book,
like,
he's thinking, oh, she's dead.
right.
I'm gonna write this story as, she's her character is gone.
No, yeah. But she kept coming back. Like every time it flipped things, I'm like, oh, she's not dead. I mean, like the whole time, I'm
Yeah.
like, is he gonna kill her or not?
Not.
So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So, and I think that's the book title. So I think what I have wrote down about the book title, so it's called The Last Word, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote which character gets the last word. And
Mm-hmm.
Emma got it, the last word. So she's
Yeah, she.
alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's how he intended it, but that's how I took it with them going back and forth. And it's like, whose story is going to reign supreme? Whose story is going to be right?
Yes. Those different points of view. Right. Because his
Yeah.
story, Deke's story was always and Emma, it was always past tense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the end, like you said, is it's present tense. She made it out. She reunited with her husband,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a little happy HEA in this
Mm-hmm.
story.
They did a thriller with a happily ever after.
Right.
Go
How
figure.
weird. How
Yeah.
weird. But yeah, you don't really have that much. After
All that was
all
missing.
the bloodbath that
Look,
led up to it.
that little conversation at the end was so adorable. The only thing was missing was the notebook kiss in the rain, like running to each other. That's the only thing missing. I mean, I can
Yeah.
visualize it. Instead, they're driving to each other
Yeah.
very
Well, he did
quickly.
say, "I'd meet you there," right? That was one of his
Yeah.
famous lines to her, is that "I meet you there," right?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah, that is
So,
what he said to her. They met
mm-hmm.
halfway from where she was when she called him.
Yep, I meet you
So
there.
he's like, leave now. I'll see you in 5 hours. I'm like, oh, cute.
Oh, yeah, that
It was
is
cute.
cute. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then, for her to do that apology, and,
Mm-hmm.
that apology kind of goes back to, remember when the police came back to, well, not came back, but came to the house to do a wellness check. And Aisha Kane told her to basically get them away, get them out of here, don't tell them anything. And she wasn't talking. And they're like, Miss Emma, you're not going to talk. And she's like, I'm not good at talking. I talk
Mm-hmm.
myself out of things. I blah, blah, blah. People say this about me. I don't open up. And then for her to come full circle and apologize to her husband and talk,
Yeah. She
you
had to
know.
force herself to do it, but she did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So that redemption
He
part. So,
needed that because he
mhm.
wasn't responding at first. Like she's saying, I'm coming home, and he's like silent. And he's like quiet for a whole minute. And she's looking at the phone like the numbers are still moving. He's there. And then
Right.
she's
He
like,
hasn't hung up.
okay, she's talking herself. Just say it. Just say what you need to say. And she does.
Yeah.
And then
Which
pretty
was
quickly,
hard.
yeah, it was hard for her, but pretty quickly, he's like, okay, where are you at?
Right. Because he's just like, I see something has
Yeah.
changed with you, because that was something that she, was not accustomed to doing in their relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it seemed like he was pulling her along a little bit. She was probably really relying on him a lot for her deficiencies, like with communication and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, after their child died, they always say it's really hard for couples to survive that,
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
she's already bad with communication, she shuts down and flees. She takes her dog and leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is so mean.
Yeah. But that was safe for her, she thought.
Yeah. So she
Yep.
thought.
Mm-hmm.
Walked herself right into a
Right.
lion's den. Like,
Oh
what?
gosh. Yeah.
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 That was crazy. Okay, so real fast, we should talk about the narrators. Did you like the audiobook narrators?
I did. I thought, who was the lady? She was freaking hilarious. She brought, like you were saying, the comedy in this book.
Mm-hmm.
She did so well. She brought it to life for me. Because there were moments you could hear. I felt that she brought the story to life. I can't remember which line it was, but she would do those pregnant pauses, and it almost made you
Yeah.
think like she read. Because sometimes you just think like, are the narrators narrating as they go, or do they read the story first and then go back and narrate? And I felt like she read this stuff ahead of time and knew where to put, like the pregnant pause. And because I don't know, maybe there was like some dashes in the book because we do the audio, not
Yeah.
the print. But like you could hear her laugh. I felt like I heard a few times where she kind of laughed to herself in the, while she was narrating.
Yeah.
I loved her. And the male who did the voices, I think he did an excellent job, because I felt like he did bring that creep factor and that omniscient voice, all
Yeah.
that. I enjoyed the narration.
And I could tell the difference between Deke and
Kane, HG.
HG, yeah.
Definitely.
So that was good. So I did a quick look. So the woman narrator is Carlotta Breton, and I looked at her stuff on Audible, and coincidentally, she's narrating Stone Cold Fox.
Well.
Yes,
What
and
you looking there?
Yeah, that's one of our upcoming books.
Yeah.
So we get to hear her again, and this is my first time hearing her.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed her a lot. She was good. Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking the same, like after this, I was like, she might be one of those ones, like to add her up there with January Lavoie and Robin Miles and some of my other people. So yeah, she was very, very good.
Yeah, she was. And then I looked up Jim McKissaman, I think is how you would pronounce that. You guys know I'm horrible at names, but I didn't see anything like over of the first couple of pages that we've read or will read. I definitely, this was my first experience with him. Okay. So I don't know if he'll show up again. Who knows? His
he had a
background,
very distinct
or
voice. Yeah, like I wonder if he kind of would do more, I won't say nonfiction, or more literary, because he has a very distinct voice. But and then you think, like, was it distinct because he was given the omniscient? But anyway,
yeah,
I know,
because he did kind of slip into this very official sounding
commercial
narrator voice,
yeah,
like he was reading like a book. It was like very
like
cool.
that movie voiceover,
yeah,
or the commercial voiceover.
Yeah, so you could definitely tell the difference throughout, when you would hear that. That's why I'm like, oh, this is like a third point of view. Really, the book was a third point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very unique. And I didn't know what to expect. So you guys, right now, today on Goodreads, 22,495 ratings with an average rating of 3.82. And I'm surprised it's less than 4. I don't know. I looked at some of the bad reviews just for shits and giggles, right? And some of the comments were, yes, I do understand the irony of rating a book about a killer going after reviewers that give bad grades 1 star. But this is, but this book is not a thriller. It has to be satire, right? I don't know. I don't agree with that, but I do think it was kind of comical that she's like, yeah, I'm giving it 1 star, and I do know the irony of what I'm doing. Yeah. Let's see, what else? Oh, this is one more thing, and I did want to cover this because it's a little interesting about Emma, and this one person points it out. So I'm going to quote her. Sanja says, she's the one that rated 1 star, but her review says, the reason that she is isolated herself is because her baby died, and they try to convince her that it's not her fault. But it fucking is? ? She's driving 70 miles an hour and using her phone that was in her lap. She even managed to avoid the crash. If she managed to avoid the crash, the fact that they were in that situation is her fault. And I thought that, honestly, when I was thinking about that character, I'm like, she's emailing and driving. Like the whole time she's emailing and driving. So while she didn't literally kill her child, she created the circumstances for that to happen. Right. So the fact that the husband says to her in the voice message, it's not your fault. I guess that's just him trying to get her back. Maybe it's him showing her some grace
Some
about
sympathy.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and I agree with the reviewer, it technically was her fault. Just like we talked about with, the author, the crazy author. Yeah,
Right, with
you might
the
not have literally strangled her to death, but you put her in the circumstance for her to suffocate. So
right.
she died because of your action. So you should be held liable for that. Same as I think Emma. Like, it's an accident, but you did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and rate the book, shall we? I think there's so much more, but I feel like we talked the the most entertaining parts, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like you said, the end was a little convoluted and we would be here another hour probably.
I know, because there's more.
Nitpicking
Like,
through everything.
I know. And sometimes I wish we would do that, but the idea of editing a 2-hour podcast makes me nauseous. So that's
Yeah,
not
we
our
do not
style.
want nauseous. We do not want Tamara nauseous. No, no, no.
We do not, because I'd be like, screw this. We're not doing
Yeah. It was convoluted, but it was good. So if you haven't read it, this book, please do so.
Yes. So how about you go first, Classy? What's your rating on The Last Word?
4 out of 5.
Okay, we are twinning today. I also gave it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it immensely, but it had its flaws, as everything does. So
yeah, but it was a good story, fun ride. I recommend it. I recommend you, if you have not read this, to read it. Yeah, we gave you some spoilers, but or if you haven't finished it, please finish.
I mean, honestly, you might have heard the spoilers today, but if you don't read the book tomorrow, you're not going to remember everything we said. So you're still going to get a good time out of it.
Yeah, because there is a lot. And just when you think you know something, you really don't. It's one of those, So yeah, you're right. Even though you may have listened, give yourself a little time maybe between listening to the podcast and reading the book. You'll probably forget.
Yeah, you will. No question.
Yeah.
So in the after show, if you want to check out what we're talking about in today's after show, is on Patreon. You'll need to come on over, because we are talking about, in the news, an author, and you might have heard of it already, but an author has gotten in trouble for causing drama over a Goodreads reviewer that gave her 4 out of 5 stars. 4 out of 5. And she came for her. She came for her acting crazy.
Yeah, which is so odd. 4 out of 5. That's what we just rated this book.
I know.
This is 4 out of 5 is wonderful.
It is. It's a good rating.
Yeah.
3 out of 5 is a good rating.
Yeah.
So I don't know what her problem is. But anyway, we're going to dig into the guts of that over on the after show, because I have thoughts.
Yes, lots of thoughts.
Yes, and I have a little story time about one of the groups I run, and I want to vent. So if y'all want to hear me vent about this,
story time.
Yes, if you want to hear it, you need to come to Patreon, where it's my safe, happy place. Come on over to Patreon. Okay, so I guess let's see what is next on our agenda. Let's go ahead.
Stone Cold Fox, right?
Yeah, I guess that is what's next, isn't it?
I believe it is.
Okay, so we are reading Stone Cold Fox by Rachel Kohler-Croft. There we go. That sounds right.
Okay.
So definitely come on over to the podcast. Again, next month we'll be right here in your inbox. Like and subscribe. And if you want to talk with us in book club, come on over to book clubs. We're happy to have you there. And if that's not your thing, hey, we'll be right here for you, as we always are. So I think that's a wrap. What do you think, Classy?
Yes, it's a wrap.
All right. So we will see you guys again next month, talking about what month is it? August? Oh my God, August? Bunny read?
I know.
The summer
I don't
is
even
almost
want to
over.
say the FALL word.
I know. Even though I love that season. Anyway, y'all, we'll be back again next month to talk about the August book, and we'll see you then. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction Official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction Podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.